Let's make it a little bit more friendly. Yeah? So one, turn off your laptop. What I promise from my side is hopefully it will be a useful session for you. So if you have the laptop and there's nothing urgent, I appreciate if you can close your laptop. Yeah. If there's some deal that's like $5 million that you have to send an email, it's okay. We all will wait for you. If it's not very urgent, yeah. Right. If there's nothing urgent, I appreciate if you can close it and come to the front. Here, 5 seats. Let's use only this section. The other part, I think some people will come and use it. Come to the front.
No, here.
Come here. Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay. Whoever comes to the front seat will get something at the end of the session. It's a big thing. Yes, you can even come here. And you don't want to regret not coming to the front at the end of the session. There will be a big surprise to whoever is coming here. Yes. Promise. Especially if someone is looking for opportunities in the German market after the master.
I'm not looking for anything else.
No? Okay.
I already referred and I'm done.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We have 90 minutes together. Okay. If you feel at any point it's not useful, not what you're expecting, it's very okay for me. You open the door and you leave. Just appreciate your time because time is life. You don't have to be stuck here if you don't feel like it's useful, right? But if it's useful, you come to the front. Okay? Deal? Deal? No?
Yeah.
This is not a lecture. I'm not giving you a lecture. It's a workshop. So we'll discuss together, and there's some takeaways that will come out of the session. Clear? We are all sustainable mobility masters, right?
Yes.
Anyone from outside, except my two friends?
Outside.
Because it's open lecture. There are colleagues coming from outside the masters. They're not with you in the masters. Okay. And which country are you from? India?
Portugal.
Portugal, India,
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. Which part of Kazakhstan?
Western.
City, Almaty?
Akhtar.
Akhtar. I was there a year ago. Very good.
India.
India. Egypt.
India.
India.
Singapore.
Singapore.
India.
India.
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. Oh, wow. Which city? Are your friends?
Yeah.
Okay. Who convinced the other one to come to this masters? You start together. You don't want to blame the other one. Mexico. China. Oh, very good. Very. Which country are missing? Son?
Missing?
Yeah, I mean they are part of the masters, but they're not here.
Yeah.
We have Germans.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, here.
Okay, good. So you know the topic of the session, right? So we'll talk about transport electrification, which is the whole topic of your masters, right? So I'm trying to give you a global perspective so you understand what's happening globally. So we will cover a few points. So first, everyone knows what this 1.5 degrees. 1.5 degrees. We are trying to get transport. We are trying to do something with 1.5 degrees. What it is? What is that 1.5 degrees?
Maximum average increase of temperature.
Yeah. But I'll be a little bit tough in the lecture if there's some concept that I get surprised that you don't know, because when you get out of the masters and you try to find opportunities, you should have some solid base that you build your knowledge based on, right? So when we do talk about sustainable mobility, it's a very small piece of a big puzzle, right? What's the big puzzle? Why all countries now are trying to go to electric mobility, energy efficiency, solar energy? What is the point of all of this transition? There's climate change, right? And there are many different reasons, but there's one issue, which is climate change. What is climate change?
Climate change.
Yeah.
The climate is changing, going more.
What does it mean? Yeah, good.
Is it like in few like 20, 40, 50 years, it's gonna be a national disaster?
How does that happen? Like, what is causing that climate change to happen?
Global warming.
Huh?
Global warming.
What does it mean? What is global warming?
So the average temperature of the Earth and the atmosphere is increasing every year because of the pollution and activities. So that's causing a lot of changes in the environment and climate is changing because of that.
Very good. What's your good name?
Muhammad Taha.
Muhammad. Did you hear that? What's your good name? Sir. Okay. What's your good name?
Huh?
What's your good name?
My name, Linda.
Linda.
Yeah.
Did you hear what Muhammad said about global warming? What's global warming?
Global?
Global warming. He's saying climate change is the reason behind it is global warming. You know what's global warming, right?
Yeah. It's one factor.
Yeah.
Which is one factor.
Yeah. Okay. So in simple language, is think of the planet as if it's like a tank, right? If you put a fire in the tank and you close the tank, what will happen? Smoke, right? Smoke will be within the tank. If the tank is transparent, there will be so much smoke that you can't even see what's inside, right? Can you visualize what I'm trying to say? So this is basically what happens is the ecosystem, the planet is designed in a way that there's some carbon that's coming out, but the ecosystem is allowing some of that to go outside of the atmosphere and some of it to be within, right? But if the system is somehow disrupted, so you are not allowing those gases to go out, they will be trapped inside. And exactly like the tank, the smoke will actually make it very full of carbon dioxide, which is now what's happening with global warming is the emissions, the carbon dioxide emissions and the many different other emissions are trapped within the atmosphere. So they are increasing the temperature, right? So there's a limit of that temperature increase that the natural ecosystem can live with. And if you exceed that limit, it will be a big issue. So plants that were supposed to come out in the summer in China will not come out because the temperature is not suitable for these plants to go out, right? Same in some cities in Pakistan will be flooded because the water level is going up. Some, and where I'm coming from, the UAE, you have temperatures going very high, so people cannot go out, etc. So all of this are causing some natural issues, right? So what is that temperature increase? So the scientists, they sat down and they said, okay, let's do simulation to understand what is the level of temperature increase that we can afford as humans to be able to stay and continue to live on the planet, right? And how they measure the Earth temperature. So what is that 1.5 degrees?
It's the ozone layer.
No, nothing to do with ozone. Yeah.
1.5 degrees, according to Paris Agreement, is the temperature where we can keep the Earth at some level of temperatures that can be controlled. Beyond 1.5 degrees.
Very good. But still, why 1.5? Why not 3, 5, 7, 8?
Based on science.
Yeah. What is that 1.5 compared to what?
The increase from average
Base.
So you go ahead.
I think it has to do with the point of no return. So we are below.
But how do you calculate? 1.5 is the increase. Increase above what? What is the temperature of the Earth today? How much we can increase to afford what temperature? Today, the temperature is like 15, like 18 today.
Right.
If it's like 25, you can still live with it, right? In the GCC, in the UAE, it's like sometimes at 38. And we live with 38, it's
Isn't
okay.
it a global average temperature?
Yeah, how they measure, very good. So this is the global 1.5 degrees above the global average temperature of the Earth. Again, 1.5 degrees is the increase, memorize the exact language, is the increase above the global average Earth temperature. Earth temperature. How do they measure the Earth temperature? Exactly. So they have a very specific way, science, on how they do this. They put specific special equipment across the globe in different locations on Earth, in the sea. They send boats actually in the sea. They measure all of this temperature and they take the summation and they take the average. So that average, that's how they do. That's the scientific methodology on how they measure. They can afford to go above that average by 1.5 degrees. Up beyond 1.5 degrees, there will be a lot of natural disasters. So this is what we can afford. Some analysis say it can be up to 2. So again, this is a different discussion. Is it either it's 1.5 or 2? Just to be on the safe side, people push for 1.5, which is what was in the Paris Agreement in 2021, in Paris 2015. Clear? So we understand when someone says to actually, because the whole lecture is trying to say how far we are from getting the transport sector to be aligned with the 1.5 degrees target. So if we don't know how the 1.5 degrees target came, what's the point of knowing how to reach it? So we understand how this number came from, right? Yeah? Yeah? Good? Okay. So this is a workshop again. So we'll have an exercise in the middle. You'll actually have to work in groups. Just for you to think, you will take the position of a country. So you can start thinking about a country. And then you will act as a minister of transport in that country. And then you will have to design how exactly you are, what policies you will put in place for the transport sector in the country that you have selected to be aligned with the 1.5 degrees target. So we will give you the tools to get to do that exercise. Okay. How do I make it full screen here? Just 1 second. It's okay. Okay, so this is what we will talk about. You can see the screen clearly, right? So we'll talk about what is the problem, how big or difficult it is to get the transport sector to be aligned with 1.5 degrees. Is it too difficult, too easy? Can we actually still achieve that? Because there's a timeline as well. I forgot to mention this. The 1.5 degrees is by 2050. So if we get there by 2060, that's 10 years late. If we do that by 2055, it's 5 years late. So we need to get to limit the increase to by 2050. That increase will only be 1.5. Okay. So what is the scale of that problem? Second, we'll talk about what is happening so far. There's some efforts. Some countries, you have seen the EU at some point, they announced that by 2050, actually it was 2035 initially, will stop the sales of internal combustion engine vehicles. Now they cancelled that for now. But some countries still put a target that they have to electrify transportation by a specific percentage by a specific date. So what has happened over the last 10, 15 years? We'll go through this to understand what has happened so far. And then number 3, we'll look at what we call hard to abate sectors. Did you hear that terminology before? So how to abate sector in the general sense is the sector that is not very easy for me to decarbonize. So if you are driving a passenger vehicle, tomorrow you can, if you have money, you can go and buy a Tesla or BYD, and now you are driving or BMW, just to be in Germany. Just to be, and it's your decision. You can take a decision very fast, right? But if you are commercial fleet, you have 100 trucks, you cannot just take a decision tomorrow, I will electrify my commercial fleet. So that's how we define how to abate. If you are an airline, you cannot take a decision that I will make the plane electric, right? This are how to abate sectors. They're not easy to decarbonize or to change easily, right? So we'll talk about the how to abate sectors, where we are today in terms of the policies, technologies, numbers, and then we'll talk about the policy levels and trade wars, the tariff, the US new tariff. What is the impact of the tariff? Is it actually helping accelerate electrification, or it will slow down electrification, especially for you? Okay, so what is the impact of it? Who is benefiting from the tariff? Is it a good tool or a bad tool? Right? Yeah? Yes? Okay. And then, since I'm coming from the region, my region, I do some marketing and promotion for the region, what's happening there, because I think it matters to the global agenda as well. Okay, clear? If you feel like you're going to sleep, come to the front, I'll make you not sleep. Yeah? And then, eventually we'll talk about what it really requires. I'm serious. If you want to come to the front, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Some concepts, and please take notes because I think that some of these will help you when you design your own policies. When you buy a car today, there's a few things that that happen naturally. So you buy a car, you don't buy the car for 1 year, right? You buy it and you keep it for some years, 10 years, 15 years, depends, right? So what happens to the emissions? So your decision today is impacting the emissions for the next 10, 15 years, right? So that we call asset lock-in. Asset lock-in. It's different from the phone, maximum how long you can maintain the phone. 2 years, 3 years, and then you can change it. Even after 1 year, you can change it because it's not a huge investment. But when you buy a car, it's like you buy a house. You maintain that for a very long time. And if you take a decision today to buy an internal engine vehicle, the emissions from that would continue to be there for 15 years, 20 years. Even if when you sell it, someone else will buy it and use it, right? So that is asset lock-in. That's why any decisions related to purchasing a vehicle, it's a long-term decision on the emissions. That's very clear, right? So that is asset lock-in and emission lock-in. You make a decision today. If it's electric, not electric, the impact will be felt not just on you, on the environment for the next 10, 15 years. And that's a big issue, by the way. That's the main issue. Because whatever has been sold in the past years are already in roads, right? You cannot control the emissions that are coming from this, but you can control that anyone who's going to buy an EV today, or buy a car today, you can somehow incentivize or de-incentivize them from making the next purchase to be electric. So whatever you influence today, where you will feel the impact for the next years. And this is fundamentally against the political system in the countries. When you vote for someone, they stay for the position for 5 years, 6 years, and then they leave, right? And someone else will come. So the political system is not designed to think about climate change or the environment because it's a very short cycle. It's 5 years, 6 years, etc. But to really tackle the environmental issues, you are thinking about decisions now that you will take that you will continue to feel for the next 20 years. So unless you have that political vision that cares about the society, the environment, and you think long term, this is not something that will be on top of the list. And we have to be aware that when we push for this, it will come. I get too excited. You see? Yeah. Okay. So that's one. Okay. Now we talked about 1.5. So there are emissions. Emissions are coming from different sources of emissions. You have the factories that burn fuel, coal, whatever. You have in your houses, if you're using heat pumps, if you're using heating, and other countries cooling, all of this are sources of emissions. The electricity that you consume, all of this, for you to get that source of energy, there's emissions associated with that, right? So the emissions coming from transportation, and you'll see different figures. Usually you'll see 24% of the global emissions, but this 37 is coming from the emissions from the energy. Because what happens, there are some things that you burn and you get emissions right away. And there are some things that you get energy. So you don't burn fuel for the sake of burning fuel and transportation. You burn fuel because you want to get the energy that will move the car, right? So if you focus about the emissions coming from energy generation, transportation contributes 37% of that overall emissions. That's a huge number. And that's all different modes of transportation, whether it's road transportation, rail transportation, air transportation, sea transportation. All different types of transportation contribute that 37%. And on the graph on the right side, you can see the breakdown. What are the different contributors based on the mode? Road transport being on the top, road freight, the heavy trucks, aviation, then you have shipping, and you have railway and others. Others includes micro mobility, last mile, etc. Okay? Yeah?
Those are not emissions, it's energy generation.
Energy, CO from energy generation. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so if we are saying we have to limit the increase of the global temperature by 1.5 degrees globally, and we are saying that we need to get the transport sector to be aligned with this, what does it mean for the transport sector? Okay, so one, this is a reduction of 50% of the emissions on annual basis until 2030. So that means on every year, the transport sector emissions have to be reduced by 50%. That's a huge. By the way, if you stop today, if you ask every single person their new purchase to be electric, again, everyone will just buy an electric car. We will not achieve the number. So because you, as you said earlier, you have asset lock-in, you have many vehicles already on the road that will continue to emit. So even if you make every single purchase, new purchase electric, you will not achieve the target. So what is the solution? Why we are talking about all of this? And I'll go out of the slides for 1 second. You know what's ASI? Avoid, shift, and improve. For sure, you have taken this in one of the lectures. No? Yes.
What about the southern years?
I'll come back to it. But you know what's ASI? ASI. Avoid. So there's something very popular in the transport sector called ASI framework. ASI framework saying for us to be aligned with the 1.5 degrees in the transport sector, we have to follow the ASI framework. What does it mean? Avoid transportation. So the first thing we start with as policymakers and as individuals, we avoid transportation. Remember the COVID times? So many people that we realized you don't really have to commute to work to do your work. So can we avoid transport before you make any transportation decision? Do I have to really get to that place to do what I want to do? Can I do it online? Can I do my work online? And this is same for companies. If companies are asking people to come to the office every day, they have to ask themselves, do I really need all people to come to the office, commute every day, and have all of these permissions to perform the job? Can it be done online? And that's the avoidance of transportation. So the easiest way to avoid emissions from transportation is to avoid transportation in the first place. So that's one.
I mean, during quarantine.
Yeah, not necessarily another COVID.
But I don't think it's when you talk about it, but let's be realistic, right? I've been here for 7 years and I saw this and numbers didn't change, right? I mean, COVID helped with the procrastinated the 1.5, I know. And I mean, long time there was a gasometer here and there was a number 1.5. There was how do you say this time, how many years we have until to achieve this or until not reaching this target, but everything falls down after they build a culture ban in this oil campus. But
that's why if whatever you cannot avoid, you cannot say I will stop going out of home, I will just walk and will go back to camels and horses and we have to use transportation.
Yeah.
But and this is again comes from the policy making. So today, if you're a government and you say, you as companies, you don't have to get people to commute to the office every day. So companies, what they want to do, like many companies are doing this, actually, it's saving them a lot of office space as well. I know a lot of companies, they say, okay, you come to the office 2 days per week. You still come to the office. But they realize people don't really have to come to the office 5 days. And they share the offices. So the offices space is smaller, they're saving cost, saving emissions as well. So there are some different policy ways of how you make people avoid transportation. The other way is what you cannot avoid, you shift. So today, if everyone has his own personal vehicle and every day they commute with the personal vehicle, can we give you the right tools to use shared transportation, to use public transportation? So you shift from an individual personal vehicle to a more shared public transportation. By default, that would reduce emissions, right? Today, in where I come from, in the traffic, I see one person per car is stuck in the traffic. I am sure many of these people are living in the same building, but they're just stuck in the traffic.
I mean, you live in there's no efficient public transport. Like you cannot compare this to Germany.
But but that's another point, which is to make the shift, you have to provide people that with
Infrastructure.
reliable, accessible, and affordable public transportation. So if today I want to use public transportation, but for me, it takes me 15 minutes to go from home to work with the car. If you tell me to use public transportation, it will take you 1 hour. I will not do it.
Yeah.
I will not take four times the time of the trip to do it. It has to make sense for the people to make the shift. You cannot enforce the shift and make the life of people inconvenient, right?
The employees are ready to do from whatever it is, but even in my previous company, we all like ask for our phone, but employer is not agreed for. Because I come from Bangalore, it's a huge traffic congestion, and our problem is mainly transportation, and we got to so much of time we spend on road.
And that's the beauty of transportation, to be honest. Transportation is very correlated to all the cultural issues.
Yes.
So you know what is the issue for it's a trust issue.
Yeah.
So now we started with transportation. You came down to the point that what is happening is the employers are not trusting the employees, and hence they are not allowing them to work.
They say we're not getting quality of work.
Of course, and that's, by the way, there's a very interesting metric by MIT Energy Initiative. Look at this. They did 2 studies. One of them they call it car pride, and I'll come back to your point. So they did a survey for like 140 countries, and they came up with a metric that shows how people judge you and decide on your social status based on the mode of transportation that you use. So how people are proud of the car. And they did ranking for countries. Can you guess which country is #1 in car pride? People like to show that it's an African country. People like to show that they are driving a big car, going speed. I'm not using public transportation. No.
Yes.
Ghana?
South Africa, in South, not South Africa, in the South. It's Nigeria. I have never been to Nigeria. So Nigeria is #1 in car pride. Second one is Saudi Arabia. Third one is the UAE. Fourth one, I don't remember. But it's interesting to study. So it gives you a very good, when I always say this, if you want to look at the health of a community, a health of a society, you look at public transportation. If everyone is using public transportation without having to think about who I will be with, what kind of people I will see, etc., that's a healthy community. If there's a terminology called social exclusion, and it starts from public transportation, you can build a very fragile society by just designing our own public transportation network, meaning you don't take care of the public transport. So by the time people within a specific social class will use it, if you cannot afford. But if you build a very strong public transport network, people wouldn't think about who is it affordable for me or not. It's just a good public transport network. Go to the Nordic countries. Oslo, I don't know if you have been. You'll find everyone. You cannot say this guy is rich because he's using public transport or vice versa. Everyone is using it. Go to some other countries without naming one. You know, if you're going to use the metro, what kind of people you will see. It's already, and that by default will mean if you go to one of the stations, you will know exactly who you will see in the station. It's very predictable. You know who is living in that community. By default, if you are within a specific class, you wouldn't live in that community because it does not have access to that public transportation. So you design the communities all by designing the public transportation in a specific way. So back to the point we are talking about ASI, avoid, shift, and improve. So whatever you cannot avoid, then you shift. But sometimes I cannot shift. As I said, the station might be 30 minutes walking for me. So, and I don't have any first or last mile transport mode. Then I have to improve. And this is also an overlooked issue. So everyone looks at electrification. But some countries, they would say, I don't want to enforce specific decisions on the users. I don't want to say, you have to buy an electric vehicle. Just make it for me appealing to buy, and I will buy it. If it makes sense, I will buy it. So everyone wants to save money. Everyone wants to save the environment if it makes sense, if it's not too expensive. It's by default. People don't hate the planet. It's not by default. I just want to have a lot of emissions. But make it make sense, right? And people will go with it. In the meantime, you have the fuel, the ICE, the internal combustion engine vehicles. Now you have a lot of regulations related to what's called fuel efficiency. So the Euro, I don't know if you know this standards, but there are different standards on how you ensure the vehicle itself, the fuel, the burning of the fuel is efficient. So you're not burning so much fuel to get for every mile that you drive. So while we are pushing electrification, while making it cheaper, better, etc., the ICE you can put efficiency standards that will push the industry to go even more efficient. So that will have to go hand in hand, avoid shift and improve. And it's not the responsibility of the governments only. Companies also have to understand it's everyone's responsibility. So back to your question. So as we said, 1.5 degrees, that's for all sectors, for all emissions within this ecosystem. And that if you divide that and remember the 37, it's the contribution of emissions from transportation, from all energy-based sectors. Okay, clear? And now, if you give every sector, this is the budget that you have from now to 2020 to 2050. You cannot consume more than this. This is like your emissions quota, right? Every sector will have a quota. If you finish this, you're done. Now we are in the new, who was saying, no return point. So once you exceed that budget, we cannot go back. So the budget, if we continue today with the same slope, with the same transition, that means the budget for transportation, for the transport sector, will be consumed in 7 years. We are in 2026. So 7 years would be what, 2032? 33, that's 17 years before the deadline. So that 7 years should be like 24 years. So that means we need, as I said, there's so many other things. That's why I explained ASI. So we have to avoid and we have to shift, because just electrification is not possible. Like if we continue with the business as usual, all the budget will be consumed in 7 years. Okay.
But do you know how much electrification will contribute to this 7 years?
This is if we continue with this. In the next one of the next, I think it's the next slide. You'll see the slope, how many vehicles, how many EVs are being sold every year, and what's the share of this versus the total number of vehicles. Yeah. Okay, if we continue with the same slope, the number of vehicles are going up because the population are going up. More people are buying vehicles in general. So if we continue with that same slope, with the same share of EVs, we will finish the budget in 7 years. Let's see this. This is the total number of sold vehicles, EVs, from 2018 till 2025. The good news, it's exponential. And this is, again, for the exercise.
So it's BEV.
Battery electric vehicles, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been for Germany or?
This is global. This is global. We are talking about 22 million. Last year, 22 million. Germany, I think, overall, all vehicles in Germany, it's not like 22 million. So this is all vehicles sold on annual basis. So like last year, 22 million EVs were sold. The year before, 24, I think we're talking about 15 point something, 16 million EVs were sold in 2024. There are a few observations from here. So last year there's a good record, 1 in 4 cars sold, because we want to take this in perspective as well. If I take it 22, but we actually had 200 million vehicles sold, it's nothing. But if I tell you 22 million EVs were sold, which means 1 in every 4 cars sold was electric. That's a good percentage. For the first time, we have 1 in 4.
No, just to mention that for sure China is included.
Of course,
it's global,
yeah.
and it's yes, and
The biggest portion coming from there, right?
yeah, of course.
So we will break it down in a little bit so you understand what's happening in China and how we can learn, etc. But this is global, and 2 observations or a few observations. One, the right growth of EV adoption should be exponential. Why should it be exponential? You know how an exponential graph should like versus linear, right? You're all engineers. You know, linear graph is like every year, like first year you have 10, second year you have 15, third year you have 20. So the increment is constant, and the graph, if you put a line, it will be like a straight line. It's going like this, but it's a straight line. So every year you're increasing by the exact same percentage, right? But exponential, it's like this. At some point, there's a point that it will go up. It's like a hill, or like a mountain, right? So this is, if you put a line on this, it's almost exponential. Why? If any technology adoption, right, trajectory for it is always exponential. Look at the adoption of AI, the adoption of phones, internet. It is always exponential. And the health of the adoption is when that graph goes up very early. So the more it waits, it's like this is the time, and this is the rate of adoption. Okay, so some technology AI, it's like this. It didn't take much time. It's like 1 month, right? So this could be like million of users who reached this in 1 month. And like phones, maybe it's like this, took like 6 months, right? So the faster it is, that means people actually they like the transition, right? So if you put it linear like this, that means the adoption is taking very long time, right? So there's something wrong with this. This is not normal for something that's transformational. So the more transformational it is, the faster it should be exponential, right? You agree, right? So this is okay. It is going almost exponential. If you put a graph, like put a point here, here, and connect all the dots, it will be exponential. There's a big issue with some countries. They are proud when they have a linear adoption. It is adoption, it's increasing with the time. But if it's not exponential, that means there's something fundamentally wrong about it. Because there are always people who want to buy EV, but they buy it for different reasons. They buy it because it's nice, it's prestigious, whatever reason it is. But when it gets to adoption, to exponential, that means that at some point in the adoption, that it makes more sense to buy an EV versus buying a normal car. That's when it goes exponential. That's the point. We call it the tipping point. So this tipping point here, that you see that graph was going like this, right? It could continue linear, but there's a point that people decided it will not go linear, it will go up like this. This is the tipping point. And the tipping point is the point when it makes more sense to buy an EV, for example, than to buy a normal car. So everyone will just go to buy an EV. Makes sense financially, makes sense whatever the reason is, but it makes more sense for the user, right? So if you don't get to the point where you make it as you make it make more sense to buy an EV, then you'll continue with the linear. And we don't want linear; we want it to be exponential, because the whole simulation that we are talking about here is about exponential growth. Clear? So when you simulate, when you do the exercise, you need your country that you are going to simulate for to be exponential. Yes.
So it's like sales is growing. It means like production is also growing.
Yes.
But for the production of this SPF, it's also we also like produce some CO2s during the production.
You already get a discussion that I was hoping that you already discussed this in the masters, because it's a good debate. But anything you do, any asset, you always do what we call the LCA, the life cycle assessment, right? There are two terminologies that are very important, but we will not cover them. One is the LCA, and the second is the TCO, the total cost of ownership. You know the second one?
Yes.
Why? This is the one you took? Good. So the first one is very similar. TCO, you look at the cost across the whole lifetime of the asset. LCA is you look at the emissions across the lifetime of the asset. So life cycle emissions. You start from the mining, the minerals for the batteries, the production of the batteries, the production, the assembly of the car, the shipment of the car, the use of the car, the disposal of the battery, the disposal of the car. You take all of
The
this.
source of energy. The source of energy.
The source of energy for charging, etc. And this is different from country to country because it depends on the electricity mix. How much electricity is coming from renewable energy? Because I'm charging in Germany, And this electricity, I don't know the source of the electricity. So I look at the electricity mix. Germany has like 50% renewable. So that means the electricity I'm consuming might be 50% renewable as well. You take all of this, we call it the emission factors, which how you convert the energy of the country to the energy that you consume in any facility, whether it's a factory, because the factory is also taking electricity from the grid. They don't know the source of that electricity. So how they convert using the emission factors, different discussion. So if you do this and you took the life cycle emissions of an EV, you compare it with an internal combustion engine vehicle, and the worst and most dirty grid globally, EVs still are greener than ICE vehicles. We did the simulation in Saudi Arabia. I'm not saying Saudi is dirty, but we did the simulation in Saudi Arabia. I think they have 8% renewables. And EVs are still cleaner than ICE by 12% over the lifetime of 12. Keeping in mind, you have to keep in mind two things. One, we talked about the asset lock-in. If you buy an ICE today, an internal combustion engine vehicle today, you'll keep it for years, right? The fastest sector to be decarbonized today is which sector? Which sector is decarbonizing the fastest? The power sector.
The energy.
So the energy sector. So today you are using electricity that might be coming from fossil fuel, but next year it will be 10% cleaner, 20%.
I can confirm this because I work and I do contracts with energy providers like Vattenfall and everything. When I was doing contracts, actually there is the CPO, the charge points operator, needs to confirm where's the energy, if it's the energy is green or not. Sometimes in some countries, like I remember, like I don't know, Poland or Bulgaria or some like these countries, we did some exceptions because they said that we cannot provide 100% green energy, but they will say that we agree on 80%, as already Ahmed said. So it's actually realistic, but it's also waiting, right? It's a comparison thing.
And why the energy sector is the fastest to decarbonize? Not because they want to decarbonize. Today, it's cheaper to produce solar energy than fossil fuel energy anywhere in the planet. It's cheaper. In the GCC and in the Gulf and the UAE and Saudi, you can produce a kilowatt from solar that is almost 20% of the cost of producing fossil fuel, a kilowatt from fossil fuel, 20%. So it's cheaper to produce solar than fossil fuel. It does make sense now economically. So whoever is actually delaying is actually losing money somehow. So you have to remember, even if I buy an ICE today, an EV today, and the grid is not clean, which means I'm not charging it with clean electricity, tomorrow it will be clean electricity. After tomorrow it will be cleaner electricity. Okay. Two other. So why this? Why you think we actually this exponential graph globally? I think you mentioned China is one of the reasons, but why people are? Maybe you want to come here because you didn't see us. I don't see you. You wanna? Why electrification of transportation is happening? Yeah, good.
Maybe for two things. First, it's the competitiveness of this sector of between China and US. And second is incentives by government. Some governments are making incentives for people to buy electric cars or charging stations, for example, Norway.
Very good. Any other opinions? Why people are buying EVs?
The most good alternative for the IC, like fuel cars.
Can you use your question?
Again?
Yeah.
The most I forgot this word, but what's called the most good, the better alternative for the fuel cars. Is it electric cars?
I didn't
And
hear
then
you.
the cheapest one, like instead of the other, like I don't know, like this.
Do you mean the cost that
Yeah.
the energy cost is getting way cheaper than the
Electricity prices.
yeah.
I mean the fuel cars also because like also like resources are limited for the fuel cars.
The oil yes, there I mean they did a study. I get your point. That means the oil there is a limitation, right? with the oil production, and there's some certain years, I don't know, there's some
Okay,
oil
got your
barrels.
point. Yeah.
And then
So
and then-
policies,
Yes.
government are putting caps or policies on companies, so people have to buy. Okay. What else? Give a chance to others.
Like he said, there's also competition rising from a certain point where many OEMs are making shifting towards electric cars. That is also making the suppliers to provide more of these raw materials like battery motors to many different competitors. That is also driving the cost of the car lower and making it more affordable for people to switch when it's the same size of a car.
Yeah.
ICE engine and
Very
EV
good.
that become more valuable.
So we talked about incentives, government incentives. We talked about availability of the options, which is also government policies. We talked about, can you put one word for what you said?
Competition.
Competition. What else?
Trend. Like people are buying this, I will also go.
Okay. People. It's power. How there's one word for this?
Trend.
Yeah, but
Consumer behavior.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Okay. What else? So any government, yes,
Low maintenance.
low maintenance. Okay. So convenience that you can get
Lower
with
tax rates. Lower tax rates. Low tax rates.
taxes. Yeah. Low taxes.
Technology reliability. For example, charging stations are now charging electricity so faster than
Yeah.
availability of charging stations.
So, do you know how governments work? What is the purpose of governments? The government in the country. What is the main? If you go back in history, why governments were actually came? Why people needed a government to represent
manage a different group of people in one system.
Okay, how they manage it? How they manage people?
By rules, limitations,
By?
rules.
Okay, what type of rules? There are two types of rules, and those actually define everything the governments do.
One is indirectly permit to make money, like imposing tax on everyone.
Tax.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one.
Tax and this like
Or
To power.
what is the opposite of a tax?
Income.
No, what is the opposite of a tax? You tax something or you?
Fine. Fine.
No. Fine is a kind of a tax. Fine is some sort of a tax.
Incentivize.
What is the opposite of a tax?
Incentivize.
Yes, subsidize. So you either tax or you subsidize. By the way, everything that any government does has to come down to one of these two. Think about anything they do, it's either they tax it or they subsidize it. If you want to make people use something, what do? Subsidize it. If you want people to stop using something, you tax it. Simple, right? Literally, this is how governments work anyway. And today, the fuel is subsidized. Any country, by the way, the fuel is subsidized by an extent. Some of them 50%, some of them more, etc. But fuel is subsidized. So if you want to make buying a car more expensive, you remove the subsidy and you increase the tax. You reduce the subsidy, you increase the tax. No way. What they did? No way. By the way, it's not because people loved EVs. It was heavily subsidized. So people, you get back your tax from your income tax. It's only reducing the taxes, which is some kind of a subsidy. So they made it cheap. They made it cheaper for people to buy EVs, right? So, and always think about this. You as governments, you either tax or subsidize. So, if you let's even take it deeper. If you today say, I want to reduce the cost of an EV. So it's some kind of a subsidy, but how do you do that? Okay, let's go to the value chain. How you as a government, you want the final price of an EV in your country to be cheaper for the end user.
You make a deal with the production.
You go and you subsidize the battery production. So that means the cost of the battery is cheaper. Battery is like 30-40% of the cost of the car. So you made the car cheaper, right? You tax the fuel stations. Yeah, you make that. So even within the value chain, you can control it. And this is the beauty of this transition. And I just go out of this, then we'll come back. When you buy a car, you take the car from the dealership, you literally register it, you drive it, and that's it. So if you need to fuel, you stop by the fuel station, 5 minutes refuel and go. And this was very easy for governments to regulate because they only regulate the registration of the vehicle, they regulate the fuel stations. Now think about an EV. You buy a car, you have a villa, you connect it to the grid, taking electricity from the grid. If you think about a district like this, everyone has an EV, everyone connects to the grid, everyone goes to work at 8, everyone comes back at 5. There's no grid that's designed that everyone has an EV that's connected to charge at the same time. Did they tell you about the district, the dentist district in Berlin? That's a story actually. So there's a district, I don't know, recall which one, the exact place, but that's popular for dentists. And dentists here, they make a lot of money. So they have an EV and they buy an EV for their wives. And they all go to work at the same time and they all come back at the same time.
Maybe Stadtmitte.
I don't know. I think Massimo actually told that story. Or I don't remember. And they all come back at the same time, and they all connect to the grid at the same time. So there's an overload on the grid because everyone has an EV. It's not normal. Other districts do not have EVs. Sorry?
No,
Okay. So it's not normal, right? So there is no grid that's designed. So how can you regulate this? Governments don't really yet understand how complex it is because you have to regulate the access to the electricity for the houses. And now you install the stations here, you have power availability, you have to regulate that as well. So it is very complex, and government, like there's no one entity today that's responsible for it, and this is globally, by the way. So far, no one has really unpacked how to regulate EVs, because you have an entity that should regulate the power availability, the power upgrade, the V2G, the connection between. You can even you can use the car, and some countries they allow this to happen. I think it's allowed in Germany. When you install solar on the house, the battery system is expensive. They say, okay, you don't have to install a standalone battery management system and battery system. When you generate electricity from solar and you are not directly using it, it charges your car battery. And when you need the opposite, when you need to have electricity and your solar is not working, there's shade or it's in the night, connect the vehicle and you will get electricity back from the vehicle. This is not something that governments understood before. It's new, right? That was not possible before. So who is regulating this? So that's one thing that's not understood. Two, historically, how many countries were dominating the auto sector? 4 or 5 countries. Now what's happening is this is an opportunity to every single country to, if not fully be on the map for the production of EVs, be on the map for production of a component of the EVs. And this is an opportunity for all countries. You know, it's not a complex technology that everyone or some countries have fully dominated them. So you can manufacture the battery, you can manufacture the cells, you can manufacture the battery management systems, you can whatever it is. So it's a new industry that's being created and will be the mainstream that everyone has an opportunity in. I don't know why I talked about all of this, but anyways. The other news, why the cost is going down. So one of the points someone mentioned is the cost of an EV went down. And by the way, this is a good and bad, because now it's good for you as end user because I can buy an EV, it's cheaper, but bad for the investor because when they invest, they buy fleet, taxi fleet, whatever. They simulate the depreciation. We talked about the TCO, right? When they sell it after 5 years, they expect a specific price. Based on that, they know what is the return of the investment. But if the price of the asset went down much higher, much sharper than it was simulated, then they are losing money, right? So it is good and bad in a sense. But what I want you to look at is the cost of the battery. We talked about the batteries being almost 30 to 40% of the cost of the vehicle itself. So any decline in the price of the battery will have direct impact on the price of the vehicle itself. Over the last 10 years, the battery price went down by 90%. 90%. So all the way from almost, we're talking about 2010, the cost for each kilowatt hour was 1,100. Now it's 100. Yeah. So, and why is that? Different reasons. Economies of scale. So now you have, instead of producing X number of batteries, you're producing 1000X of batteries. So when you do that scale, the cost will go down. That's one. Two is the technology became somehow more mature thanks to China. So, by the way, China last year alone produced batteries that are enough for the whole industry. Like, if everyone else stopped production of batteries and they only use the batteries coming from China, that's enough for the whole industry, for the whole battery industry. China for automotive, for storage, for everything. So all the production that came from outside of China, that's a surplus. So, and this is a discussion I always remember. People used to always say, we have to be careful about EVs because we don't have enough batteries. We don't have enough minerals. That's not the case, actually. We are producing more batteries than what we actually need. So the battery prices are going down as well because it's overproduction.
Supply is enough.
Sorry?
Supply is enough.
Supply?
Supply is enough.
It is more supply.
Supply is more.
Yeah, exactly. Which is good for anyone looking. By the way, this is also another discussion. We talked about the TCO and the decline of the prices. One of the things that if you are looking at this value chain and you want to identify opportunities in your industry, you have to look at the whole value chain. What is the EV? There's a car, people drive it. The battery will deplete after some years, 8 years, 10 years, depends on how you use it. And in most of the countries, that battery is actually the liability of the OEM. So BMW will sell the car, but after 10 years, when the battery is actually not usable anymore, you have to give it back to the BMW. It's not your responsibility to dispose the battery. What is the opportunity in this? If it's BMW's responsibility to take care of the battery, they are not designed to take care of batteries. BMW is not a battery company, but this is a liability on them. So now, if you think about it, I know friends who are doing this and they're very successful. Now, there's an opportunity coming up from someone, a company that has a responsibility by law to do something that's not in their business model. And they will give you money to take the battery and actually do something with it, which has the battery itself is very valuable. You know that at 8 years, 10 years, depends on the timeline. The battery is not so automotive by regulation. The whole battery efficiency has to be above 80%. Otherwise, it cannot be used in the car. But 80% does not mean every single cell has the efficiency lower than 80%. It's just the whole battery. You know how batteries are designed. What is the component? What are the components of a battery pack?
Cells.
So the battery
Yeah.
has different battery, or what's the main component first? Modules. So you can see the whole battery pack, which is like the Tesla battery or the BYD battery, has small boxes. Like, I don't know if you have seen a battery like uncovered, have small boxes. Each box will have a different number of cells. So the cells come together, they make a module. A stack is the word stack is used outside of the auto industry, but in the auto, you have the battery pack, modules, cells. So the whole battery pack efficiency cannot be below 80%. If it's below 80%, it cannot be used in the auto sector. But can be used in many different applications. You have a stationary storage, that storage you put, so you're connected to a solar system, that can be inefficiency. That's one. Two, if you unpack or break down the battery and measure the efficiency of every single cell, some cells might be 99% efficiency because they don't charge and discharge at the exact same rate. Some cells can charge and discharge at faster rates, so they deplete faster, but others can stay longer. And when you do that, you take out the cells that have higher efficiency, you reassemble a battery pack, and you sell it as a spare part for EVs. So if you think about it this way, that's an opportunity coming up from a challenge, because again, back to the point that we started with, That's an industry that some stakeholders are forced to do some business that's not in their business model. Yeah. Any questions so far? Okay. In one of the earlier slides, I broke down the emissions per mode of transportation. You remember the slide when we had the 37, and we said road transport is contributing the highest amount of emissions. Then you have road freight, then you have the other modes, right? So each mode of transportation can decarbonize and electrify faster or slower than the others. The fastest and easiest is passenger vehicles, right? Why? Because you have supply. It's economically feasible in many cases as well. In many countries, today it's cheaper to buy an EV and to own an EV than an ICE. It is already in some countries. Again, TCO. You have to think about the TCO. It might be more expensive to buy the purchase price, but over 5-10 years, the time you own it, it's cheaper. In some countries, it is cheaper to buy an electric bus, and that's especially in the US, China as well. Electric buses are cheaper to operate than an internal combustion engine bus. Electric wheelers, India, top leader globally. India, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. Where?
I mean, scooters.
Yeah, two and three wheelers, tuk-tuks as well.
Asia,
Yeah, tuk-tuk is awesome. But yeah,
Sorry?
overall Asia.
Yeah.
Asia is the first.
You have to use your voice.
I said Asia is first.
Asia, yeah,
Asia.
in general, yes, I agree. So and by the way, in some countries in Asia, they have more two-wheelers than they have cars.
Yes.
Yeah, so people it's like one scooter for everyone. Should be actually a slogan. We give one scooter to every person. Anyways, it's not fun. Waste time. And then you have like commercial vans, the small 3 tons and below. Those are actually also being electrified, but not fast enough. Then you have heavy duty, and we have the off-road machinery, like the forklifts, the mining trucks, all of this also can. So this graph, you will get the slide, but this graph shows you what is happening if, like today. The data is a little bit outdated. This is 24 data. So what is the share of those vehicles and the total number of electric vehicles and the total number of vehicles within that mode? And what you see here, I don't know if I do this, you will see. Yeah, what you see here is the IEA, the International Energy Agency. No? International Energy Agency. No? The International Energy Agency, it's an intergovernment organization. So governments are members. It was established after the Gulf War when there's an oil embargo and the stuff. So they decided that we'll have an entity so we can regulate all the energy trading between countries, etc. Anyways, and they do every year, they publish an electric vehicle outlook. So they look at the status of the year, and they look at, for us to achieve the net zero target, which is net zero by 2050, what do we need to do within the EV sector? So they have this electric vehicle outlook they publish in May of every month. This month, they should publish for 26. And they tell you how much should be the share of EVs for every mode of transportation for us to be aligned
global percentage.
All global, everything is global. So, for example, here they say they have this model. They say, okay, if we want to be net zero by 2030 for the transport sector, that means passenger vehicles have to have 60% of the vehicles sold every year to be electric. Electric buses have to have 80%. Two-wheelers have to have 70% electric. So that's a model they simulate. And every year it changes slightly, but gives you an idea. Because some countries look at the IEA and they just follow. What does it mean? So they say, okay, in the UAE and Germany, if I want to be net zero by 2030, I will follow the IEA model. That means I have to have 60% of the cars sold to be electric. Some countries just follow the model of the IEA. So you need to understand that model, and that's again to the exercise that we will start in 2 slides.
But, but how do really Gulf countries look on like production of
It's
EVs?
coming. Good.
When you have like lots of oil production, like
Can someone answer? It's a good question. So oil-based economies, regardless where they are, a country that the majority of the economy is based on oil production and export. Does it make sense for them to actually adopt EVs or push people to adopt EVs?
I can give you an answer. If you look at Norway, it's the best example. Norway has, as you saw in the slide, 96% are BEVs due to incentives. But Norway is one of the top oil company that they sell. Let's say that it's an oil export in the world. So you can take Norway as an example, and they can also think about it for the GCC and so on. As simple as that.
And by the way, any country that all countries globally are subsidizing fossil fuel. So a question for you: if you produce fossil fuel, would it make more sense for you financially to export it and make profit, or to subsidize it and use it locally?
I would see my country's development, subsidizing music, if it's profitable.
Fossil fuel, if you can use renewable energy locally and use that fossil fuel to export it and make money from it.
Make money from it and use it in another.
Exactly. So if you can, if and this is the case for Gulf countries, you have the sun almost all year, right? So, and as I said, you can produce the cheapest renewable energy. So better to produce renewable energy, use it locally, and export the emissions outside. Give this fossil fuel to everyone else so they can burn it and drive or do whatever. Financially, economically, it makes more sense. And this is how countries think. And again, it's all economics. Right? Whoever is going on TV saying we care about the environment, we do care for Fit for 55 or care for the environment, whatever. It's all moved by economics at the end of the day. If this everything we're talking about, if it does not make sense for governments and companies economically, no one will do it. And that's why we also, I remember when I was young, I always wanted to. I went to the company and said, we have to care about the environment. We have to buy electric and this stuff. And when you understand that's not how people make decisions on the country, you can make that decision as an individual, maybe because you care. But on companies are moved by profits. Governments are moved by what would make people vote for me next year. It's a different discussion. This is supposed to be a small exercise, but we will skip it and we'll get to the big exercise later. This is a debate. We're supposed to have 2 groups, and one to defend and one to challenge each one of these 2 scenarios. We'll skip it and we'll get to the one exercise later. Okay. We talked about how to abate, just for you to understand, because in some countries this is more difficult than others. So we talked about aviation, total emissions from aviation globally, from the transport emissions, right? Transport emissions as well. Out of that, 12% of the emissions from the transport is coming from aviation, 11% is coming from shipping, and 23% is coming from road freight. And just to give you context, the whole aviation sector and the global emissions, this 12% is out of the whole transport emissions. But if you say aviation, how much are the emissions from aviation from all the global emissions? It's 1.5%. So it's a little bit strange for me when everyone is attacking the aviation industry, saying they are responsible and people are flying, whatever, and the whole contribution is 1.5 degrees. I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on it, but sometimes, and this is important as well, that some things are manipulated because it serves the agenda of some industries. We need to put everything in perspective. Aviation is one of the sectors that is actually, there's a lot of push, but there's no availability of technology for them to actually fully decouple. So you cannot, and this is an excuse, by the way, for the aviation for the airline companies to increase the tickets. Because when you say, I am forced to decarbonize, but there's no availability of technology, so we'll have to limit the travel of people. People will not stop traveling. Even if the prices increase, you will continue to travel, but you will have to pay the price of it. So sometimes this is an excuse for companies to increase the prices. I remember one of my friends saying, okay, if you have a bucket list that you are planning to travel to, you have 2 years to finish it. Because after 2 years, the prices of the airlines will double, if not triple. Because they are under, it's a joke, it might be true, but they are under a lot of regulations, and hence this will actually limit the emissions. They might have to pay taxes, etc. And this will make eventually the price of flying more expensive. Okay. Some things are happening in each one of the sectors. Aviation today, ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, we are trying to force all airlines to have the global fuel to be 1%, at least 1% coming from SAF. Does anyone know what is SAF? What is that? What does it mean?
Biofuel.
Yeah.
E-fuel. Yeah.
So when you fly, the plane is using kerosene, right? This is fossil fuel. So kerosene is a fossil fuel. So can you manufacture the same chemical component of the kerosene from organic materials, from biofuels? The answer is yes, and that's what they call SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. It's the same chemical composition, but it's coming from biomaterials. It's more expensive today, but again, if you continue with economies of scale, like we did with the batteries, lithium-ion, it might be cheaper over time. Some small planes recruit within the general aviation. You know what's general aviation? General aviation is the category of aviation. If the plane has between 3 to 18 seats, that's general aviation. And general aviation is a category that's usually small planes. They use it for tourism, for trips, etc. This is an area that there's a lot of innovation, and in some areas it can actually be fully electric. In some cases, there's actually fully electric general aviation planes. Shipping, different cases. The ships, huge, you need fuel. And this is one of the most difficult to actually decarbonize. There's something called green methanol, green ammonia, and there's the discussion about hydrogen and different types of hydrogen, which is a different discussion we cannot have now. And then you have trucks. And trucks, some trucks are now electric. MCS. Does anyone know what MCS is?
Yeah.
Of course. MCS. CCS. CCS. SSS. No, there's no such thing. No. So when you charge, what's your name again? Ninda. So Ninda in China, when you plug the charger, do you see the same cable as here? No.
NCS.
And NCS.
And
We'll come to
NCS also there. It's in North America.
when you're in China and you have an electric car and you go use a charger, the charger, it's like that. I don't have a charger at my bag, but it's like this. You see this? I use this in Germany, right? When I go to my country, I use this. Why they don't have one? Why they make it difficult? So I have to have this. It's difficult, right? If I use this, I cannot charge. So in China, the charger to use the car has a specific shape, so the car can fit in. Here, the plug has different shape. And how many shapes there are globally? Here they have 4 for the. They're actually 4. 5. 4. How the charger, the type of the charger, there are 4 different standards globally.
So one for Chinese, NCS, and
Japanese also. The Japanese one.
So the China one is called GBT.
Japanese, yes,
Yeah.
Japanese, J.
GBT.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
You have Shadimo,
Shadimo.
and you have CCS, the combined or connected
Yeah, CCS too.
combined charging standard, which is German. Actually, the entity that's authored it is in the office behind this one. China. I just came from there. and then you have NACS, North American Charging Standard,
Mhm.
which came from Tesla. So you have four different types of plugs, okay, and they look very different. You Google charging plugs, it's exactly like this. Why I mentioned this? Okay, so the entity that came up with the CCS came up with something called MCS, Megawatt Charging Standard. So when you charge your car from the charger, you get electricity in kilowatts. You can get maximum 350. I don't know what's the fastest charger now.
Because
400 something.
400 kilowatts. You can get 400 kilowatts per minute. Of course, if the car can take this, it has to be compatibility. The car can also take that much power.
It's the HPC.
Yeah. So the high power charging. So if you do that, you get maximum 400. But why can't I get? What is the issue with the why charging? I remember in 6 years, to fully charge a car, it will take you 6 hours. Now it takes you like 30 minutes. BYD.
I mean, BYD got
something
eight,
for like 5
the
minutes.
7 minutes. 8
Have you seen that
minutes.
video? There's a trending. There's a trending video. BYD car. You plug it in, like 5 minutes, it's full charge. Super high
it's an
power.
enumeration of batteries for real.
Yeah. So why we cannot charge in 1 minute? Why is the speed of charging is limited?
To save battery life.
Hmm?
To save battery life.
To save battery life?
Yeah.
If I don't care, I just want to charge. Can I charge in 1 minute?
I mean, there's a fail safe for the battery as well.
What?
There's a fail safe voltage for a battery as well.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Good point.
it'll either heat up or blow up if it's too much voltage. So that's only for saving.
Yeah,
And I think there's no cables that understand this current.
exactly. The cable.
This is the main reason.
Conversions.
The conversion is a different topic. You take AC, DC, converted. That's a different topic. But the chargers are not designed to give you more. Like the maximum was like 400. And now, if you have a truck, the battery of a truck, it's a big battery, right? So to charge a big battery, if the taxi takes the small car takes 6 hours in the past, now it takes 30 minutes. It means that the truck will take like 2 hours. I cannot afford to have the truck stopping to charge in 2 hours. Then we decided we'll do megawatt charging. So you can get 1 mega in 1 minute. If the battery is like 3 mega, and 3 mega can drive you like 2,500 kilometers, 3,000 kilometers. It's a long range for trucks. So you charge that in minutes. So that technology is already available now. So there is already technology for heavy duty to start decarbonizing.
Actually, I did study 2 weeks ago on the heavy duty. I was calculating it. I took the Daimler, the new Daimler e-tron. It can go 370 kilometers with one battery with it, and it reaches 20% the buffer, which is each battery, so you can only consume 80% of it. And with this MCS, it actually takes 45 minutes to charge it.
I'm sorry.
With a 20%.
Carrying how much weight?
40 ton. It was a 40 ton. Actually, this was case study. Yeah, it was a 41 tons, and then there was 3 trucks. There's Kenya, as you see, there's Daimler, and there's one called MAN. Yeah, and actually the one that has the most efficiency with the 40 tons was the Daimler. It can go around 170 kilometers with a 20% buffer, and the ton is 40.
Yeah.
And with us, MCS, it was
We have 20 minutes. So we'll take 5 more minutes for content, then we'll do the exercise. Yeah?
Can we do a break?
Sorry?
Can we do a break as well?
Break? No break. We'll finish and then you take the break for the full day, for the rest of the day. Give you a break. Okay, so just again, we're talking about what's happening globally. So today, you know what's NDC? National Determined Contribution. So the UN, the United Nations, asks every country that every year they have to submit something, a document called NDC, National Determined Contribution. I don't know why it's called like this, honestly, but this is a document that they have to outline how they are decarbonizing every sector, including transport. And today, it's up to the country to decide whether they want to include transport in the NDC or not. So only 15% of the NDCs include targets for transportation, which is very low target. So we should have all countries include transportation in their NDC. That's a big gap. This is here shows you a timeline from 22 to 26 here. What are the main key policy issues and how they have impacted transportation? You look 25 at the US tariff on China as main producer of EVs and globally as well, and how this is impacting the global trade and hence the cost of EVs and other vehicles as well. And you have to understand this. You have to understand when those tariffs are enforced, and even the doesn't have to be enforced on the vehicle itself. It can be enforced on the raw materials that you use to produce the vehicle. Eventually, that will have an impact on the final cost and prices of the vehicles and hence adoption as well. Okay, now how should we do this? We can do how many we are? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We can do 3 teams. Okay, choose a country, act as if you are a policy committee in that country, use AI. I recommend using AI. Use AI, but you have to understand what the AI is telling you. Yeah, don't give the whole exercise to AI and just read from the AI. You have to understand, you have to chat with your AI and come up with the following. That country, you have to be net zero transport by 2050. How you suggest, what you are suggesting for this country to do in terms of policies. Again, remember we do tax incentives, tax subsidies. What are the different policies that you will put in that country to be net zero transport by 2050? You can say, I will subsidize public transport. I will tax or remove the subsidy from the fuel. I will put a cap. I think someone mentioned the cap on, that's a very smart policy from California. In California, they call it advanced clean cars. So what they do in the policy, which is very smart, they say, okay, you as a dealership, when you sell the car, you can sell any car you want, okay? But 10% of what you sell has to be electric, okay? Remember, 10% has to be electric. So if you are selling 100 cars, 10 cars have to be electric. If you are selling 1,000 cars, 100 have to be electric. So if you are selling more conventional cars and people are not coming to you to buy EVs, what you will do? You cannot stop selling cars. You will incentivize the sale of EV because you might be making the profit from the 900. You just make the other 100 cheaper because otherwise you will be fine on the other 900. And you as a company don't want to make something cheaper or for free. So you will do campaigns, awareness to educate people about why they should buy the 100. So what will happen with the time? More awareness will be in the market and people will actually naturally go and buy. So that 100 will be 200. With the time it will be 300. So naturally, because they are incentivized, that they have to raise awareness, people become aware and they make natural decisions to buy. It was one of the smartest policies. All of these are policies. You have 1 minute, choose a group, 3 tables.
Okay, middle income country, government.
Ideally choose a country from Asia, Middle East, or Latin America.
Grid 60% possibilities.
Huh?
Minimum 60%. What is the grid 60% possibility?
This is just an example. We talked about the grid mix. You have 60% fossil fuel, 40% for renewable energy. This is just an example. Choose a country. 3 countries. Anyone here from Colombia? Anyone from Latin America? Mexico. Choose Mexico. That's 1. India. That's 2. Kazakhstan. That's 3. Done. Kazakhstan, India, Mexico.
Okay.
No domestic EV industry.
Huh?